I can't look, wait till we get,
We've completely lost him now.
yeah. I
Okay,
was just
and
there.
we are now live on YouTube. So Brenda, if you want to go ahead and get started.
Okay, good evening, members of the committee and members of the public. I will now call the Property Standards Committee to order. As this meeting is being held virtually, I will go over some of the rules of procedure for the benefit of members and the viewing public. All members will remain muted when not speaking for the meeting to reduce feedback. All web cameras for committee members shall be turned on. Staff will be requested to join the video meeting should the need to answer questions arise. Any member of the committee should indicate they wish to speak by physically raising their hand. Movers and seconders of motions shall be indicated by physically raising their hand on camera, and the chair will call out who the mover and seconder are. All members of the committee participating via online video conference will vote by a physical show of hands. The chair will indicate to leave your hands raised until they have determined the result of the vote. In the event that a connection service interruption occurs that affects quorum of the committee, we may recess the meeting for up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting will be adjourned. Appellants, agents, owners, and delegations are participating via Zoom or telephone accordingly. All persons wishing to speak to the items on the agenda were required to register by 9 a.m. Any delegations received in written format have been provided to the members of the committee and will form part of the meeting record. The clerk has taken the roll. Do any members of the committee have any declarations of conflicts of pecuniary interest to make on any of the items before the committee this evening? Seeing none, there are no presentations or registered delegates for the meeting. This is a regular meeting of the Property Standards Committee. Members of the committee will hear property standards appeals, then must render decisions on the orders issued. The committee has the authority to confirm, rescind, extend, amend, and/or modify a property standards order. As the hearing is open to the public, please note that the names of persons participating in the hearing will be recorded in the minutes, which is a public record. Mrs. Binkley, I understand you have a statement for us.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone, through the chair. The Ontario Building Code Act provides municipalities with the authority to establish a property standards bylaw and require properties to conform to the standards set out in that bylaw. The City of Brantford's property standards bylaw includes an option where property owners can appeal to this committee after a property standards order has been issued. And speaking to the report before you tonight will be Property Standards Officer Ian Harrower.
Thank you. Our hearing is for Property Standards Order number 21-21 for 14 Ann Street, Brantford. I will now call upon staff to provide us with details of the report on this matter.
Through the chair to the committee, my name is Ian Harrower. I am a municipal law enforcement officer and property standards officer with the City of Brantford. Background in regards to the concern in mention on 14 Ann Street regarding file number and order number 21-21. So on April 1st, 2021, the City of Brantford Bylaw Department received a concern in regards to some property standards deficiencies located at the address of 14 Ann Street in the City of Brantford. On inspection, it was found that a retaining wall that was facing the Usher Street side of the property belonging to 14 Ann Street was found to be deteriorating and to have large cracks portions and falling apart and crumbling at that property. It was a decision with the City of Brantford Bylaw Department at that time for the issuance for a order on the property. The request was made to the city's legal department to confirm ownership of the property of 14 Ann Street in the City of Brantford. Information was returned on April 8th, 2021 from the City of Brantford's legal department to show that the property of 14 Ann Street in the City of Brantford was owned by a numbered company. That number is 1849438, Ontario Limited of 103 Copernicus Boulevard in the city of Brantford, Ontario, N3P 1 and 4. Accordingly, a property standards order number 21-21 was issued on April 8th, 2021, requiring repairs subsequently to the notice of appeal received by the building department from the registered owner. The appellant is requesting additional time to request to finish those repairs. Currently, on today's date, on a reinspection this morning, the retaining wall located on the property of 14 Ann Street, again facing the Usher Street side in the city of Brantford, has continued to deteriorate immensely. Larger portions are now missing and crumbling under my hands. At this point, have not been complied with by the order. At this point, we are asking that the appeal filed by numbered company 1849438, Ontario Limited, owner of 14 Ann Street in the city of Brantford, regarding property standards order number 21-21 be denied, and that this order be confirmed and upheld by the Property Standards Committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, sir. Do you members of the committee have questions for staff at this point in time? Mr. Smith? Sorry, I thought you raised your hand.
Okay, I will. Ian, I've got a question. That deterioration of that retaining wall, is it just a small section, or just the whole wall itself is in total disrepair?
Through the chair to the speaker. Currently, it is large sections. The section that we did locate on Usher Street there, it is behind a municipal residence in the city of Brantford. That section to me is a fairly large section. There is numerous other sections at the top of the retaining wall that are in disrepair and crumbling as well. Due to the location of this retaining wall and adjoining buildings, it is hard to see the entire retaining wall. It is a very large retaining wall backing onto Usher Street. But again, there is numerous deficiencies throughout this section that is facing Usher Street on that retaining wall.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Are there any further questions for staff at this time? Okay, I will call upon the appellant, Mrs. Kaplan.
Thank you.
Did you have a question, Mrs. Kaplan? If you could unmute yourself, please.
Through the chair, sorry, Susan, if you have any other audio opened on your computer or any mics near it, it might be causing a feedback issue. Or if you have any other videos playing in the background or anything like that, that could be causing a feedback issue as well.
If I could ask the clerk. Oh. If I could ask the clerk, should we just continue, or?
You can continue. Susan, if you'd also like to send me an email with your question, I can read it out loud and you can just confirm that that's the question you want to ask if you do have any, but you could probably move on, Brenda, if you'd like, and
Okay,
there'll be opportunity to ask questions later as well.
perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, through the chair, to staff. I understand that the property owner's representative hired a structural engineering firm as well as a surveyor. What is the status of the survey on the property as well as the structural engineering report?
Through the chair to the speaker, currently myself, I have not received any documentation from the property owner. Again, that is just me, myself. I have not received any documentation from that property owner.
Are there any further questions for staff? Mr. Smith? You're on mute, Mr. Smith.
Through you, Madam Chair, to our bylaw officer, Ian Harrower. I've read in the file after reading it, this has been an ongoing problem since 2014. Was that problem, the initial problem, corrected, or is it just an ongoing manifestation?
Through the chair to the speaker, there was a file back in February 2014. Again, I can't really speak to what happened then, as my employment was not with the city of Brantford at that point in time. From what I've gathered, that it is an ongoing deficiency with this property, though, that has not been corrected.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for staff at this time? Okay, I will call upon the appellant, Ian Ladd, to address the committee. Mr. Ladd, if you could please provide the committee with your name and address and then advise the committee what you were seeking from them this evening.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
We can, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Ian Ladd, and my address is 2 LaSalle Court, Stony Creek, Ontario. I am one of the owners of the numbered company that owns the property at 14 Ann Street. It's probably best for me to just answer questions. This issue for us as an ownership group was only brought to our attention around April of this year. Even though, as just mentioned, the issue has been going on since 2014. We became owners of the property many years after that. And really, what we are here is just innocent of the fact that when we purchased the property, we did our searches. And at the time, the orders that were, I guess, written back in August of 2014 were not registered. So unbeknownst to us, we didn't know anything about this retaining wall officially until, again, I believe it was April of this year.
And what is it that you are asking the committee for this evening, sir?
So again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not exactly sure what it is I'm asking for, but really at the crux of the issue right now is time. We have been actively working on trying to get the situation rectified, but we have a number of questions that are still outstanding. To answer the question, or a couple of the questions that was just asked of Mr. Harrower, we requested many things to be done to help us through this process, including an engineer's report and design to do the repairs, as well as later on at the request of the engineer, a survey. To give you some timelines, the engineer's report was delivered to us a number of weeks back, but the survey, which was requested back in early July, just was sent on September 24th. I believe that was last Friday. So we are just now getting information in our hands that is going to help us determine, what is involved. The other major issue here is ultimately who's responsible to carry the cost and burden of this repair. Again, this was a blindside to us as owners, as, again, the proper documentation of previous orders, I guess, that go back to, my understanding is August of 2014, were not properly registered, or it seems properly followed up by the city. So again, what we're asking for is an adjournment and more time to properly figure out what needs to be done, who needs to do it, and who's responsible for the payment of these items.
Okay. Are there questions for the appellant at this time? Mrs. Capoli?
Thank you for coming out, Mr. Ladd. I'm just wondering, so when you received the survey, did you have a chance to take a look at it yet?
I personally looked at it, but I have no idea what it means. I'm not an expert in that field at all. So
did you bring a copy of it with you?
Pardon me?
Did you bring a copy of it with you?
I do have a copy of it, yes.
Okay. Any chance?
Like I said, I just got it on Friday. I was actually out of town on the weekend away in the US. So
okay.
would you like me to put it on the screen? Is that helpful?
Yeah, that'd be great. You
Okay.
do have a couple of experts around here.
Let me see if I can do this.
Mr. Ladd, if you actually want to just provide that to me, my name is Melanie. I emailed you earlier today in an email, and I
Okay.
can display that for you.
All right. Let's
Thank
do
you.
that. And sorry, who am I forwarding this to?
You can send it. My name's Melanie. It would have come from mfigueredo@brantford.ca. If not, you can send it to clerks@brantford.ca.
Okay, I guess I'm just trying to search it down here. Oh, it actually came from this person's secretary. Just give me a second. I will also send you the email chain of communication where you can see I'm constantly reminding the surveyor to, get this work done. There are a number of emails that will show you that, but also many phone calls that were made to the surveyor, who was a local person. Ultimately, I decided to use somebody local to support the community, but also hoping that they would be, closer by and maybe more familiar with what needed to be done. So I'll send you that as well. I have no idea what that means, to be honest.
Melanie.
Yep, sorry.
So yeah, we have it up. I believe the property where most of the damage, the pictures that have been taken are so on the right or on the left side of the drawing where it says lot 27. If you could sort of zoom in on that portion, yeah, Perfect, thank you.
This is Ian Harris, sorry, through the chair, through the committee. It's actually, the deficiencies are at the bottom of these drawings.
Oh,
If you
okay.
do scroll down, that would be Usher Street. So
Perfect.
you'd be looking at the, pretty much between the pin number 32160-0108 in brackets LT, between those two pin numbers.
Thank you.
That is where the retaining wall is deteriorating.
Perfect, thanks.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions that I could answer while you're?
Did anybody else have any questions for the appellant? Mr. Reiner?
The chain link fence, whose property is that on?
I'm not familiar with the property myself, to be
Okay.
honest. I haven't been there many times, maybe twice over the last 10 years or so. Less than 10 years.
Okay, also through you, Madam Chair, how much time is the appellant looking for in terms of a time, like if you're thinking weather, this type of work, you know, if you don't do it fairly soon, you're gonna end up going into not till next year, right? So what are your timelines?
Sorry, is that a question for me?
Yeah, through question.
Yeah, again, I don't know. I'm not an expert in this field. We are now just getting information, but you know, again, based on what I understand needs to be done here, we're looking for months. And you're right, like to begin this work in the winter is probably not the right situation. We don't even know who is responsible to pay for this. It's not just as simple as saying the owner's responsible. Again, we were blindsided by the fact that this situation was there. As owners, this would have made, you know, possibly a decision back when we purchased the property not to have purchased it at all, or a significant discount, knowing that there were issues with this wall. I mean, from what I've been told preliminarily, this is a six-figure repair. And, you know, that is not something that we're prepared to just cover off.
Just so you know, Mr. Ladd, this committee does not have the authority to make any orders based on cost or who is responsible for
Sure.
payment. Okay, just so you know that's
Yeah.
not going to be part of our decision this evening.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just
Okay.
telling you
Yeah.
what the situation is.
Sure. Okay. Further questions for the appellant? Mr. Smith? You're on mute, Mr. Smith.
Okay, can I just add something while we're waiting for Mr. Smith?
Well, he's right here, so.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the appellant. My memory serves me correct. I sat in on that meeting. I do believe it is your property that we looked at.
Sorry, what meeting was that?
The initial one before you were the owner of that.
I have
Oh,
never
that
sat on
property.
I have never sat in on any meetings with
No,
this.
you haven't, but the previous owners.
Oh, perhaps the previous owners were well aware of it, but it wasn't disclosed under the sale. And again, I bring it up that the city of Brantford failed to register the orders that were originally written back in 2014. If that had been done, this would be a whole different situation. We would have known about it and either walked away from the deal or had negotiated a different price so that we could repair the wall or whatever. But
Well, time-wise, as a timeline, I know pouring cement with a wall of that nature is a continuous pour. And with reinforcement rod throughout that, You can probably get away with that until the end of November, depending on whether or not you get lower temperatures. And even that they can pour up until probably the middle of December with the proper rigging. So.
Sure. I don't know. Again, this is beyond my scope of expertise. I'm a CEO of multiple companies, but nothing to do with construction. What I can tell you again is that our request is that there be given reasonable time to not only figure out what needs to be done, because we're only getting some of that information in now. I have not even had a chance to retain proper counsel, legal counsel, with respect to the responsibility of who's responsible to pay for this. And certainly to be able to, just like for the example, and you'll see, I believe it was, I'm sorry, who did I email? Melanie? You'll see how much time it takes just to get a survey done, let alone a proper, I guess, plan for doing this repair. So, I mean, I'm asking for whatever time is reasonable, but I have no idea what that is.
Are there further questions, Mrs. Capoli?
Sorry, I just realized my actual video was not playing, but I'm happy to look all of you in the eye and tell you that.
Mr. Ladd. Okay, so you guys have owned the property for about 10 years.
Actually, no, it's not that long.
It's not
that long. I don't have the actual date. You want me to look that up? I can find that.
You said you've walked around the place about 2 times in the last 10 years. So I just went with what you said.
Yeah, and I corrected myself after, and I said I didn't think it was quite that long. But
okay.
You want the exact date? We can find that out.
Sorry, my question though really is like, so up till this point, you haven't received any correspondence or complaints from neighbors about water draining into their backyards or onto their property?
There were some complaints made, I believe, earlier this year to our tenant, who mentioned it to us. We did at that time have a lawyer reach out to the city to find out if there were indeed any orders. And at that time, we were told there were no orders.
So you weren't going to do anything unless there was an order?
Well, I didn't even know what this was about, how significant it was. All I was told was that there were neighbors complaining. So I guess to answer your question, no, I wasn't prepared to do anything other than look into it until we knew exactly what we were dealing with.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions for Mr. Ladd? Okay, at this point, it's my understanding that a resident of a neighboring property wishes to speak to the appeal, and I will now call upon Ms. Victoria King to speak to the committee. Ms. King, could you please begin your statement, first providing the committee with your name and address, and then advise the committee what you were seeking from us this evening, ma'am? If you could just, okay, good evening.
Hi there. Okay, so we took possession of our property.
Sorry, if you could just provide us with your name and address first.
Oh,
This is just
yep,
for
no
the
problem.
record.
No
Okay,
problem.
thank you.
My name is Victoria King. I live at 55 Usher Street, Brantford, Ontario.
Okay, and what is it you wish the committee to know?
So I did send in a video to the clerks regarding the waterfall that pours into my backyard every time it rains through the hole in the retaining wall. So the water is starting to cause damage to my garage and flood into my garage. So we are experiencing some water damage, but my primary concerns are safety and debris from CarStar. So it's a business that deals in auto repairs. So debris such as glass, shards of metal, cigarette butts, and of course the gravel from the crumbling retaining wall. all posing a safety issue. So we have a small backyard. That deck is about maybe 6 to 8 feet out to the retaining wall. And I have a small daughter that I don't feel safe allowing her to play in that area of a backyard. So we don't have recreational use of that area until the wall is repaired. I did do a Freedom of Information request to get as much background information from the city as I possibly could. So I also have a copy of a survey, a hard copy of a survey similar to the one that Mr. Ladd provided, and copies of the orders going back to the original appeal hearing, which was 2014. And I've also got copies of notes from Mr. Anderson on July of 2017, which is when I believe CarStar took ownership of that property, stating that he had updated email discussions with the new owners as to the property being sold in regards to the issuance of these orders. So my primary concern is safety and the timeline in getting this rectified. And in regards to Mr. Ladd's statement about responsibility, the previous orders and surveys had already determined that the ownership up to the south face of the retaining wall was that of CarStar. So based on my own research into typical property standards with retaining, as regards to retaining walls, the higher ground is encroaching onto my property, and the ownership lies at 14 Ann Street. So I realize that they are going to be requesting more time to fix the wall, and that the weather may be a factor in that if they can't get permits until the spring. But my primary concerns are the safety and the timeline. Obviously, my family would like to enjoy that area of our property, and until the wall is repaired and replaced, we won't be able to make any updates on our side until those repairs are done. So there was another point I had. So over the winter, last winter, they were plowing snow along the fence line, and the height of the snow piles exceeds the height of the barbed wired fence. Also, the issue with the snow melt causes serious ice buildup and accumulation on the concrete and lower deck of my property. I want to know what measures that will be taken if this committee does decide to grant an extension of time. What measures will the property owners be taking to address the pileup of snow and prevent the further deterioration of that retaining wall if it is extended past the winter? I also would like to know if I could be a party to what was issued or what was laid out in the structural engineer's report, as any work that is to be done will directly affect my property. It's adjacent. They only access really to that retaining wall is to come in through my side. And I just wanted to note again the history of non-compliance, going back to the original complaint being 2013 and the orders issued in 2014. So yeah, I want to know if I could have some information in regards to that structural engineer's report. I want to know why the city was unable to follow through or register those orders between the years of 2015 to 2017 when the new owner took possession of the property. What happened? Where was the disconnect in those years in regards to follow up on this issue?
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. King at this point in time? Seeing none. Mr. Ladd, is there, do you wish to address the committee further to make any additional statements at this time?
Okay, sorry, I think left out of that, which is fine. First of all, I'm sorry, the last speaker, our neighbor or the neighbor of our tenants, really, who is that again? She's gone. I just wanted to, let her know I apologize for, the situation. A few things just to clarify, okay, is number one, we are not the tenant. The tenant, and I do know the tenants, they bought the business from me. They're very good people, and certainly if they knew that there were issues with items from their business ending up in their backyard, that they would want to stop that. But I would suggest that we somehow communicate to the tenant. I can do that, or if you want to send them something, or the neighbor wants to send them something, that is fine. To clarify for, I'm sorry, Tamara, the purchase of the property was made by us in 2017. So I misspoke when I said 10 years. I don't know, time is going very fast these days, but we've only had the property for about 4 years, not 10. And like I said, I've only been at the location maybe twice. I never walked around the property to the extent of looking at retaining walls and things of that nature. I'm not familiar with the property at all, outside of the box that the business operated out of. The previous speaker or question from the neighbor about the orders, again, I'm telling you the first time I have ever had any correspondences to my recollection were earlier this year. If there is something that shows differently, I'm open to looking at that, but to my knowledge, the first time I was ever contacted by the city, and this is after we had tried to initiate dialogue with the city, was back in, I believe, April of this year.
Okay, are there any further questions at this point for the appellant? Okay, I will now entertain a motion from the committee on, sorry, Mrs. Capoli, did you have a question?
Sorry, Mr. Ladd, there was one other comment that the neighbor mentioned, that this is a time-consuming, labor-intensive project that you're about to undertake, and knowing that there is a time frame involved, and is there anything that you can do to help mitigate the further damaging of the neighboring property and the impact that it's going to be causing?
Again, I don't know. Apart from speaking to the tenants, I can talk to them about the snow plowing. They're the ones that hire the contract for the snow plowing. I mean, I can definitely speak to them about that. One other thing, and is the neighbor on this line, or can I just say this?
No.
Okay. Ultimately, she talked about, this happening in the backyard and whatever. Again, this has been going on for many years. I would say that, if she had taken a look in the backyard when they bought the property, they would have also seen it at that time, because it's been going on way before she bought the property. So I'm not trying to create an argument with our neighbor, because obviously she looks like, she's got a young family, and ultimately we're not trying to do anything but try to get to the bottom of this. But anyways.
Okay, are there any further questions for Mr. Ladd? Mr. Smith?
Yes, Madam Chair, through you. to Mr. Ladd. The problem being, from what she just described to me and the rest of the panel, that the snow with a mixture of the salt is the main deterioration of that wall. And that wall, in all possibility, may not be there in spring if we have a cold and we have a good freeze, and then a thaw and a freeze. Water expands things greatly. So as Tamara said, do you have any idea how you can alleviate some of these problems temporarily? I know one thing is that the plowing has to stop on that side, but
well, outside of that, again, I keep going back to the fact that we are, while slowly getting through the items that need to be figured out, we are attempting to move through this process. If you look at the timelines from the communications that I've had with, whether it be construction companies, engineers, surveyors, you'll see very clearly that I've been working on this over the last number of months to try to get to the bottom of what needs to happen. And I apologize to, I think it's Tamara. Yes, it's important to find out who is responsible to pay for this. Because quite frankly, I don't have $100 grand or 150 grand to just dump into this wall. So that is also part of what needs to happen here.
Okay.
And I would also go back, and ask the question our neighbor just proposed. What happened between 2014 and 2021 as far as getting this problem solved?
Well, the order before the committee this evening is from this year, so we are not.
Right, but that completely impacts this whole conversation.
Well, we have no information before us from 2014, so.
Pardon?
We have no information before us from the 2014 order. If there was one, we're dealing with now, so.
Well, aren't these issues the same?
I have no idea.
Well, it's my understanding that the orders back from 2014 are for this exact issue.
But again, what I'm saying is that we're dealing with the order from this year, so.
Okay.
That's.
I guess again, I'm just pleading for more time. We are not interested in disturbing neighbors and creating situations that are not positive. But this, I'm not a construction engineer expert. I don't know anything about cement. But again, just to properly figure this out and get things in order, it's going to take some time, unfortunately. So okay. I request that time. And there's probably people on this panel that know how much time is required better than me, because I honestly, this is not an expertise of mine at all.
Are there any further questions for Mr. Ladd at this point? Okay, I'll now entertain a motion from the committee on how they wish to deal with this appeal. Mrs. Capoli?
Okay, I'm just going to go with the recommendation by Property Standard staff that the appeal filed by 1849438 Ontario Limited, owner of 14 Ann Street in Brantford, Ontario, regarding Property Standards Order 2121 be denied, and that this order be confirmed and upheld by the Property Standards Committee.
Do we have a seconder? Mr. Smith? Is there any discussion required on the motion? Seeing as none, I will ask the clerk to call the vote.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, and those opposed? The motion is carried.
Okay, Mr. Ladd, the committee's decision has been made on your appeal. You will receive official notification of our decision from the building department. And if you wish to appeal the decision to the Superior Court, instructions will be sent with the notification from the building department. As the committee did not quash the order, there is an additional administrative fee of $125, which will be assessed to you. Thank you for attending this evening, sir. May I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes of our previous meeting, please? Seconded. Any errors or omissions to be noted? I will ask the clerk to call the vote.
All those in favor of approving the minutes? Those opposed? Okay, the item is carried.
Thank you. There are no resolutions or notices of motion. Mrs. Binkley, are there any updates you would like to provide us with this evening?
Not at this time, Chair. Thanks for asking.
Thank you very much. We don't have any appeals at this point in time, so the next meeting will be at the call of the chair. And as our business is concluded, the meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone.